Welcome to the current affairs discussion on Amrita IAS. This is another election year, and we have another topic at the center of discussion of all of the politics in India. And that topic is a uniform civil code. So, today we are going to discuss on the uniform civil code. The 22nd Law Commission also has solicited the public views on a uniform civil code in India. So, let's go back to the history of the demand for uniform civil code in India. Firstly, the question is what a uniform civil code is. A uniform civil code is a civil law that's applicable to the entirety of the territory of India, applicable to all religious and tribal groups in matters of marriage and divorce, inheritance and succession. Going back to the history of civil matters in India, we can see that at the time of the Mughals, we had a common criminal law applicable to the entirety of the population. At the same time, the civil matters were separate to each of the religions. When the British came in, they initially tried to codify the personal laws in India. At the same time, after the 1857 revolt, they decided that intervening into the religious matters of Indians was not a wise policy. And they dropped the entire policy. Remember that the British initially believed that they could reform the Indians. They, with the help of prominent personalities like Rajaram Mohan Roy, they banned Sati in India. Later, under Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, that is in 1856, they actually tried to bring about a widow remarriage law in India. That came about. But after 1857, they believed that intervening too much into the personal matters of the Indian communities, that would be detrimental to their power in India. So the British dropped their entire policy. Then, by the 20th century, some women activists, they started demanding for a uniform civil code. They had it in the context of women's rights, equality, and the idea of secularism in India. Then again, this demand or this debate came up during the Constituent Assembly debates. In that, our members like K.M. Munshi, Aladi Krishnaswamy Iyer, Hansa Mehta, Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, so they strongly demanded for a UCC. So we also had the members of the Indian Union Muslim League, Muhammad Ismail Khan and B. Pokhar Sahib. They argued that bringing about a UCC is in clash with the fundamental right to religion in India. So remember that religion is something that's fundamentally defining the identity of a person in India. So India is such a country, the South Asia, entirety of South Asia is such a place. We also had the partition due to religion itself. So in that context, they argued that bringing about a UCC would be disastrous to the cohesiveness of the country. So we had the prominent leaders like Nehru and Ambedkar. They came up with a compromise and UCC was added as a DPSP, that's the Directive Principle of State Policy, in Article 44. So Article 44 explicitly states that the state shall endeavour to bring about a uniform civil code applicable to the entire territory of India. So remember this term because that's going to be important when we are further discussing the challenges on bringing about a UCC in the country. So looking back to the judicial pronouncements regarding the UCC, we initially had the Shah Bano judgment in 1985. Then we had the Sarla Mudgal judgment in 1995. And most recently, in the Jose Paulo Coutinho versus Maria Pereira case in 2019, the Supreme Court actually viewed that the UCC in Goa is a shining example. The Supreme Court has been consistently calling for the central government to look into the possibility of bringing a uniform civil code in the country. Then we also formed certain law commissions. That's the 21st Law Commission was formed and they were asked to look into the UCC. So the 21st Law Commission in 2018 explicitly called it undesirable and unnecessary at this stage in the country. Okay, so the 22nd Law Commission has been formed and they have been given a mandate to look into the matter and they have been soliciting the public views on the opinion. Okay, so why there is such a call for UCC, such a backlash against the UCC? That's something we need to look into. Firstly, we had certain regressive practices in the religious personal laws. For example, Up until recently, we had the triple talaq, we had the bigamy system. So these were regressive practices. And in the matters of inheritance, almost all religions discriminate against women. Okay, so it is being argued that for the equal status of the citizens in the context of Article 14, which says that all citizens, regardless of their caste, creed or religion, they should be equal in front of law. So in the spirit of this equality, in order to bring about gender equality and gender justice, we need to have a progressive uniform law across the territory of the country. Secondly, we have this term secularism in the constitution. So in this spirit, a progressive country needs to reduce the significance of religion in its public life. So I would argue that religion should be a matter of personal life, personal choice, and not a matter of public debate or public policy. In this journey of progressiveness, a UCC could reduce the role of religion in our life. Thirdly, it's a more practical thing whereby we could reduce the matters of litigation if we were to have a uniform law across the country in matters like marriage, divorce, then inheritance, etc. Okay, so then there is a fourth one. It's a more general one that if we were to have this uniform law, we could feel a sense of oneness. So which could foster a spirit of nationalism among the people of the country. So UCC have these benefits that the people supporting UCC have been putting forward. At the same time, UCC also presents itself certain challenges when it comes to its implementation in India. Firstly, it could be contradictory to certain articles in the constitution. For example, Article 26, which guarantees the right for religious groups to manage their own affairs. So bringing about a UCC could be contradictory to this fundamental right. This could maybe not stand the judicial review when it is being brought about in the Supreme Court. Secondly, looking to the most recent news, we have seen that the Uttarakhand government actually brought about a new uniform civil code in its legislative assembly. As of now, it's totally fair because the matters of marriage and divorce, it comes under the concurrent list. Concurrent list is where both the center and the state can make laws. But at the same time, if you look into the terminology of Article 44, we can see that the state shall endeavor to bring about a uniform civil code across the territory of the country. That means that in the whole of India, we need to have a uniform law. So if each state is to bring about its own law, there could be a divergence. It also kind of brings about a practical difficulty. For example, let's say a person gets married in Kerala, which would in the future maybe have a civil code. And from that place, this couple is actually moving towards a place like Uttarakhand, which is having another law in matters of civil matters like marriage and divorce. So which law would be applicable to this person? And if they were to have an issue, which high court would they go to? So these kind of practical difficulties would come up if the states are going to bring up their own civil codes. The third one is more of a political matter, whereby in this current political, polarized political scenario, bringing about a UCC could create fissures in the society. And also, in the most recent history, that is in 2016, the Rashtriya Adivasi Ekta Parishad opposed the bringing about of UCC in its explicit memorandum. So, these issues are currently there that could be a problem for the UCC or problem for bringing up UCC in the country. So, as a conclusion, let's just all agree that the concept of UCC is a rather progressive concept. But in this political, polarized political scenario, we need to carefully discuss and debate what the underlining ideas that would be when a civil code is to be brought about. For example, we do not have a draft uniform civil code to discuss upon, right? So the Uttarakhand Uniform Civil Code has been bringing about certain discussions. For example, there are laws on live-in relationships, there are laws on registrations of couples and things like that, are bringing about certain discussions online, for example. At the same time, considering the whole of India, there comes another parameters like what would be the code for tribal people, how would we apply that in the case of northeast states where there are a lot of tribal personal laws which have been given exemptions under the Indian Constitution itself. Then what would be the fundamental ideas when a UCC is brought about? What would be the inspiration for those laws? Will it be forced upon certain communities within the country? So these questions remain. So let's just all agree on the principle of UCC. And while mentioning as a way forward, let's quote the 21st Law Commission, which quotes that, let me quote it. Existence of difference does not imply discrimination, but is indicative of a robust democracy. They underline that rather than enacting a UCC, family laws of every religion must be reformed to make gender just. So it talked about uniformity of rights and not uniformity of laws. It argues that before bringing about a uniform law to the entire country, let's just focus that whatever laws are there, let's just make them gender just. Let's just reform these laws at the first stage, and when the time is ripe, let's bring about a UCC and let the learned men, let the representatives of the country, let them debate in the parliament, let them decide when the time for the UCC is right, and let them bring it when the scenario of the country is more ripe for that scenario.
Amrita IAS Academy.